Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 98 podcast. I am Kiran.
I'm Amy.
And we are starting this mini series where we kind of talk about random stuff because why not? So, the way this is going to work, we have a list right here. We're going to use random number generator and then we're going to talk about it for a couple of minutes on the fly. Let's see what happens. This is our first and maybe final episode. We'll see how this goes. All right, you ready, Amy?
Yep.
Okay, 1 to 56. 8. All right, let's see what that is. 8 is
wow.
The future. All right, the future. Are you scared for like whatever happens in the future?
I think right now I'm kind of more worried about like a recession kicking back in, if I'm being honest. So I think that's kind of like my kind of main concern. I mean, in terms of the other stuff, like I have a plan, but I'm not like too fixated on it because things will change and that's completely fine. But I think it's also just growing into these new environments too has been a huge accomplishment, I would say. Like, things are kind of getting a little bit better.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that, to be honest. Yeah, recession's upon us, right? We got kind of screwed over in 2020 and now again in 2022.
Yep.
But I was thinking about like robots and global warming and all that. But yeah, the future in like 2 months versus 2 years or even like 20 years, will we make it as a society?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a question for you. Do you know like the genre of it's like sci-fi ties into future stuff, but sometimes also space stuff. Mm-hmm. But do you like future like based TV or movies or entertainment?
Yeah, I mean, I know Westworld is one of the shows that everyone's been watching. I've been so out of touch with it. Like I watched the first 2 seasons, but haven't had a chance to go back into it. But I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for some new shows or I think on their 4th season of HBO, so.
I don't know. I feel like this is always the top. Like, I don't like this genre of, like, television. It's always kind of, like, utopian or, like, weird future problems that I can't relate to right now. But I love, well, the past is a different topic. But I like the past stuff versus the future stuff. I don't know. I just never was really into, like, the whole sci-fi and I don't know. The future makes me sad. I feel like when we're kids and you think about the future, like I was thinking about this the other day, like if I'm 24 now, right, and you're 25, 10 years ago when we were 15 and 14, what did you think your 20s were going to look like? And this was never anything in my plan or like, I'm not sure anyone's plan.
So do you think like you kind of don't like watching these future things because it's a lot of like uncertainty / depressing moments kind of?
Yeah, and like fake potential
false
situation.
Hope.
Yeah, false hope in a way. I don't know. I just like even when we were in 2011 and everyone was like crying about 2012 or whatever, I was just like, let's just get this over with. Because if we're all going out, let's go out right now because this is kind of getting a little irritating talking about the future. And then what happened? Nothing. And then everything after 2012 was pretty bad too, though. So I don't know. I don't like thinking about the future like that. I used to be like, I'm like a planner and I used to have like a whole, a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, all of that. And I just, ever since like the whole graduation thing was a flop, I just stopped caring. And I try to live in the moment instead of thinking about the future because it's scary. I don't know. It's very...
And I agree. I think a lot of people also agree. Like, you should definitely be a little bit more focused on the present too. Like, yeah, the future is, you can think about it, but like don't expect it to play out the way you can get it to play out, especially if you don't have certain resources. I think that's another thing about these shows and movies is they're not counting in all these realistic factors. Not necessarily like they do kind of touch base on historical patterns, but it's not like you can ever fully predict it. Always going to be an amount of uncertainty where you're going to not be able to be 100% comfortable with it. I think that's why, like, when you brought up like, oh, like what were we thinking about 10 years ago, like a lot of us were probably thinking like, oh yeah, we're gonna obviously go to college, travel, do like all these fun things, and now we're kind of stuck in these jobs and we're like, okay, so now
I'm unemployed, but yeah.
Well, that's even worse. Like, we never thought like, oh yeah, we'd be unemployed or whatever. It's like,
yeah. And like also just the idea of like, okay, I went to like get my facial yesterday, right? That's why I'm so bright right now. No, I'm just kidding. But my spa lady was like, you have a lot of tension in your face. And I was like, what does that mean? And she's like, like you're getting like these weird acne that are very hormonal and very stress based. And I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more about it. And she was all like, what are you stressed about? And I was like, well, I had school and I had classes and then I was stressed about what I'm going to do after. And she's like, okay, now you're in the after. So what's going on now? And I was like, I'm applying to jobs and now I'm scared that I'm not going to get a good job. And then she's like, yeah. And then when you get the job, you're going to be thinking about, oh my God, what if I lose my job? Or what's next? So like you need to not stress as much and stop thinking so much so far in advance, because enjoy the spa in the moment, like enjoy what you're doing versus like the stress that you're building up from just like post spa moments. Because I was even telling her, man, like after this I have to go do this and that, and she's like, enjoy what you're doing now. And so I don't know, whenever I think of like the word future, or I even hear it, it makes me really anxious. And I'm trying not to be like, I'm not even trying to plan ahead of time or whatever, but it's just like we're in our 20s, in our mid 20s, right? And like there's like these weird societal expectations too of like what happens in your 20s. Some people tell us to enjoy our 20s. Some people say to work hard now so that we can build up our careers by the time we're 30 and we want to like start settling down and having kids. And I'm like, well, what do I do? So I don't know. Future stresses me out. I don't like this as a topic. I'm mad that this is our first topic that's chosen.
I think that's so funny too. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was gonna be like a higher number, maybe, but no, they were really said 8. I'm like, okay.
One out of 56, right? And it was like, no, you're gonna go with 8, and it was right in between travel and religion and spirituality, which could have been 2 really interesting first topics, but no, fate. You never know.
Well, at least we got that out of the way, right? Like,
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think future of the podcast? What are you hoping for? What are you not hoping for? Because we just talked about hope, right? Oh, my God. See, this is what happens when it's unfiltered and there's no topic guide.
Hey,
but what do you imagine for the future of the 98 podcast and yourself and all?
Well, for the podcast, I know like podcasts are actually kind of growing in the background right now. It's not as widely like advertised, obviously, but like people are consistently going on to podcasts, starting their own, being guests. I think we're gonna get to a point where there's gonna be potentially a convention for podcasts. I'm sure that's already a thing, but like how like there's TwitchCon, there's VidCon, but like VidCon for podcasts specifically, maybe. Might be a huge thing going forward. And I think just for me in general, like just getting used to taking accountability on things in life, of just like, I'm not stuck where I am. Like I can make the decision to move to other places or whatever it might be and like make my choices. Like we're kind of spoiled with the hybrid remote work thing too. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I'm like getting a little bit more used to these like uncertainty moments, like ambiguity, like, oh, like I don't know. I'm trying not to stress about it too much too, like similar to what you were talking about, like focusing more on the present and not like worrying about the next step.
Yeah, definitely. And then kind of just to wrap it up, I feel like at least for the future of the podcast, I hope to continue to grow, as in have more guests on and have more fun with this and keep evolving, because it's been 2 years, right, since we've been doing this, and it's just like the growth that we've accomplished so far is so significant and important to me. And I think like I just want to keep having fun with this, because when you're not having fun is when it becomes kind of like a chore. And then I don't know, like I just want to make sure that this is still a fun and welcoming place for anyone who wants to be on and stuff. So yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining us on this little mini series. Hopefully this was interesting. We'll see what happens in the next couple of episodes, but until next time, bye bye.